How's my breath? I just want to make sure for the camera.
Dude, scoot over. It's little up in here.
It's little up in here.
No, you big up in here.
And this is the big. And this is the big Skeeter. Are you gonna intro the deal?
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to your Lake Fork Guide episode of the Guides Network with my main man, Captain Ron.
Captain.
Lake Fork Guide, Ronnie Kelly, out here slanging.
AKA Smelly Kelly, AKA Scrawny Ronnie, AKA El Capitan, AKA. That's it. That's all I got.
You know, the Smelly Kelly one is now my favorite because we took that to a whole new level. In case you missed it, here's a clip of Ronnie grabbing some stink bait.
Now, how did you? Oh.
Smell your head, dude.
What is that? Is that catfish bait?
Oh. All jokes aside, and we do like to joke around. We have a good time messing with each other out here. I even got you a little bit today.
You got me
last week. Like,
got me a little bit. It's non-stop.
Man, who parks like that? What?
Man, just go fishing and go home.
It's gonna be kind of hard to get in there. You're gonna have to go around.
Unbelievable.
Long day of fishing. You just want to pick your boat up and go home.
Will you shut this door for me?
Sure. It's a good thing you're short, dog.
Shut my door.
Ronnie, what happened?
Dude, hey, I'm gonna get you back. It's gonna be real ugly. Real ugly.
Got him again. Anyways, all jokes aside, we do kid around with each other a lot. We're always pranking each other, having a good time. But all jokes aside, this cat right here has had as much time on the water as anybody I know throughout his life. He's fished a bunch and paid a lot of bills fishing. You made your living fishing for a long time.
I tell everybody I spend more time on water than I have land.
That's probably true with you. And there's, you know, he's a versatile guy. I know him really well. He's a versatile fisherman, does a lot of different things well.
And I'm sensitive about that.
But maybe one of the most impressive techniques in Ronnie's arsenal is one of the most popular techniques out there. So today we're going to have Ronnie talk to you guys about how to fish a frog.
Frog fishing, man, I don't know necessarily that it's my favorite technique, but it's one that I do a lot. Based on where I live, right here in East Texas, I fish beautiful Goat Lake, Lake Fork. I fish Lake Palestine, Caddo, Lake Tyler. All these lakes have a lot of shallow vegetation, a lot of shallow cover, and that's prime for frog fishing. I'm gonna pick that frog up pretty early in the season, and I don't put it down until June. So I kind of want to talk to you guys. I've had a lot of texts, phone calls, messages on Facebook. I appreciate you guys watching all the content that Billy's putting out and that I'm involved in. And I've got a lot of messages from what gear do I use? What speed ratio? How do I bend the hooks out? What's the retrieve? What color? So I want to cover all that real quick. We've done it before. We're going to refresh it a little bit this time. Let's talk about gear, okay? It's not as important to have a long rod, but it is important to have a pretty stiff rod. The rod that I'm throwing is actually made by Kistler. It's a 7.3 heavy action rod. Now, the key to this rod is it's an extra fast, which it basically means the rod is gonna taper at a very fast pace. So you got a heavy action butt section on this rod and a lot of bend on the tip of this rod. I'm throwing 65-pound braid. Now, guys, there's never a moment that I think you should throw anything other than 65-pound braid. You can throw 50-pound braid, and a lot of people do. In my opinion, if you're throwing braid 50 and 65 pound, it doesn't really matter. You're not gonna necessarily get more bites with 50-pound braid, so you might as well go heavy. I'm throwing in some gnarly stuff. There's a lot of times that I'm skipping boat docks, skipping buckbrush, stuff like that, and I need to make sure that once I hook that fish that I get it out. This year, especially on Lake Fork, we've got a lot of gator grass and potato grass, and so the spawn bass and the bass garden fry, they're coming up through it, they're grabbing it, and they're going back down. So I've got to make sure that I have the ability to pull those fish out. And a heavy action rod and 65-pound braid is key. On the reel, I'm throwing a 7/4-to-1 reel. This is a Shimano reel. The brand's not that big of a deal. You just want to make sure that you have a high-speed reel. When those bass grab that bait, they've only got one place to go, and that's coming right at you. And so you need to be able to take up a lot of slack. I want to show you guys the bend in this rod. The parabolic bend is a really big deal in this rod. You need to have enough tip to work the bait as well as allow the fish to get the bait. So we're going to get this on camera and you can see that there's a lot of tip in this rod, but it gets to there and it stops. And you can see the bend through that rod. That's pretty key. You don't want to get a rod that's got too long of a handle. You know, this is an 8.5 inch handle. It allows you to kind of work the frog without getting the handle all up into your ribs and that sort of deal. So that's the gear. Heavy rod, heavy line, and a fast reel. That's going to be what you want to set your frog up with. Let's talk about frogs. There's two different kinds of frogs. The frogs that I'm throwing right now are both made by Spro. This one actually is Strike King frog, but this is a popping frog. And I'm going to throw the popping frog about 9 out of 10 times. Very seldom am I ever going to use this type of frog. I don't know what the name of this is, but I call it a glide frog. This frog basically makes a side-to-side walking action. You can hear this one's got rattles in it. At times I'll throw rattles in this, but this is a frog that I'm going to throw 9 out of 10 times. It's a Spro popping frog. One question everybody asks is what do I do on the legs? Now, I don't trim the legs anymore. I used to, because used to they'd be about 6 or 8 inches straight out of the package. These legs, as you guys can kind of see, are straight out of the box. This frog hasn't been messed with or tampered with. Hasn't even been, actually that one has, let me take it back. This frog's brand new out of the box. One leg seems to be a little bit shorter than the other, not by much, but they're probably 3 inches or so. If you guys can see those hooks right there, I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So a lot of people ask me, what do you do to the legs and what do you do to the hooks? On the legs, I don't do anything. I don't do anything on the legs. They come this way and that's the way I leave them. Now on the hooks, here's the way I'm going to bend the hooks. If you guys see those hooks right there, I'm going to come from behind the bait, squeeze the body in, make sure that my pliers don't grab the legs. I don't want to tear those legs out. I'm going to grab the hook just like that right there. Now I want to grab the shank of this hook inside of there and I want to bend it out just a little bit, just like that. And if you see the little bit of separation in there, now I'm going to do the same thing again. Right there, making sure I grab a hold of it, I'm bending it outwards, away from the bait. Now, if I'm in real thick cover, I'm going to keep it like that. If I'm not in a whole lot of cover, or if the fish are missing the bait and I'm not hooking it up, I'm going to bend that out a little bit further. But you guys can see that right there. The knot that I'm going to tie is a pretty simple knot. It's probably the most popular fishing knot. I'm going to tie this real quick for you guys that aren't familiar with it. It's called a Palomar knot. You can YouTube this, you can look it up and find it with a little bit bigger line to where it's easier. But I'm going to show you guys the way I tie it, which is a little bit different than everybody else. I'm going to go through one end and back through, so now I've got a loop in the line right here, okay? I'm going to make an overhand knot. Now watch how I do this, guys. Focus in on my hands right here. I'm going to pull this knot through right here, grab it right here, but I'm going to put my finger back here and hold this right here. See how I've got my finger in there holding that knot? I'm going to pull my bait through. Now, with that finger, I'm going to pull it up and snug it right there. And I'm going to watch. The key is the two lines right here. I want to make sure that those things stay side by side as they go and they don't cross. Can you get that on video? Those lines don't cross. I'm going to snug the bait down. Now one thing I do, I don't think this is necessary, I do this on a frog on braid. I'll make overhand knot one way and overhand knot the other way and tighten that bad boy down just like that. And now I can cut that tag in a little bit closer and I don't have to worry about any slippage. It's all in my knot there. So let's talk about the areas you're going to throw. Right now we're late April. I start throwing the frog about late February, early March. I'm going to start throwing them in areas that the fish are going to set up to spawn. Not necessarily spawn, but set up to spawn. If I've got grass off of a point and I've got a good sunny day where those fish are burying up, I'll throw it out on grass edges. When the frog was so good, well, the damn fish actually running away.
Ronnie's got him a big one.
Uncle Bob, little bass.
Yeah, that's a bass right there.
That's a good one, bud.
That's
When the fish move into the back of the pockets, main lake pockets, back of creeks, fingers in creeks. A lot of areas that a lot of people will overlook, sides of bridges that just have a little bit of gator grass, pondweed, eelgrass, any kind of vegetation, I'm going to throw that. Buckbrush is another big deal, especially at Lake Fork. Some of our creeks, when they've got a lot of water in them, they'll get a lot of buckbrush. Those fish will tend to spawn in the bases of that buckbrush, and the coontail moss and the hydrilla will start to build up around it. And you don't need a lot of cover, you just need a little bit of cover. And I'll skip that frog through those areas. This time of year, when I'm starting to see a lot of bass spawn, I'm going to look for banks with spawning bass and that have holes in them. And a lot of times you'll be going down the bank, you'll see some just bank line covered in gator grass, and then you'll see a hole about that big around. A lot of times that hole's there for a reason. That bass has fanned that area out and they're in there spawning. I'll take my frog, I'll make a cast past the spot and work it through it. Anytime you're fishing vegetation, you want to look for high percentage areas. Those are going to be indentions in the grass, points in the grass, solitary areas of grass, grass that changes. Sometimes you'll be going through and it'll go from potato grass to gator grass, and that's going to be a key little area. That one little area can be a big deal.
And so, if you're watching, come on, one of those gonna put that frog down. There you go, brother.
Something that people ask me is how far out past the vegetation should I work the grass? And that kind of depends on you. There's days where I'll throw the frog and I'll catch them right on the edge. There's days that I'll throw the frog and I'll catch them in the back. And there's days that I'll throw the frog and I'll catch them 3 foot past the edge of the grass, especially during the spring when they're spawning. A lot of those bass aren't necessarily spawning up in the vegetation because the sun's not penetrating, but you might be in a shallow flat where, you know, 2-3 foot past the grass, it's still only 1.5 feet deep. And I want to make sure that I'm working that frog past there.
There's a good one right there.
Anytime that I see visible laydowns or timber, I'm going to make sure I work that frog past that. Those are high percentage target areas. All right, let's talk about colors. I keep it pretty simple. I throw kind of a white color. This is actually a color I call white monster, but this is called nasty shad. It's just basically your white. It's got a sexy shad appeal to it. It's got a little red. The tails aren't solid white. There's some black and blue in there. This is one of my favorite all around any time of the year colors. When they're not really biting that, and I need to mix it up, especially in late April, early May, when the bluegill are really starting to move up shallow, there's 2 colors that are really good. And this one's called Killer Gill. It's a really natural color. This is the one that you guys know as Cowboy. Cowboy is pretty famous around here. This is basically a bluegill imitation. There's a little silver with a little orange dot right here. The legs are black, blue, and purple, which technically, officially, is called blurple. So the other color I throw is O-Red. Now I just pulled this one out of the box so you guys can kind of see. O-Red can do some dirty damage, okay? O-Red is called Natural Red by Spro, and about mid to late May, the crawfish will really start to get active in the lakes, and you'll start to hear them, especially if you're around lakes with hydrilla, you'll start to hear Rice Krispies in the water. And the little bitty crawfish will start clacking in the water, and this color right here really, really shines. It's pretty natural. The only other color I throw, and I really don't throw black very often, but it's solid black. And so I'm gonna show you guys all these colors. I'm gonna show you kind of by the way I throw them, what my favorite to least favorite. So pretty much you got Cowboy, White Monster, and O-Red. If these 3 frogs right here don't get the job done, then probably nothing will. Okay, so one of the other things I didn't cover earlier on the rod is you want to have a soft tip. It's really important when you're making a cast that you allow that bait to fall and land as subtle as possible. So I'm going to show you guys kind of the cast. I like a sidearm roll cast most of the time. If I throw it overhand, I like to make sure that when that bait lands, it lands in vegetation so it doesn't cause as much ruckus. And if it does, if I don't throw and I don't land in vegetation, I land in open water, I'm going to make sure to let the rings kind of dissipate before I start to work the frog. I want you guys to watch the way I'm going to retrieve this frog. This is a little different than you're going to see it. I'm not looking for a steady cadence most of the time. I'm looking for more of an erratic action. I'm wanting to imitate a bait fish, and a lot of times you'll see bait fish and they'll kind of spit and sputter across the surface, and it's never just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's always a pop, 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 pop.
They literally were just doing that as you were saying it.
They're doing it over there. So they're just going to be an erratic, and it's a bait fish trying to get away from a predator. So that's how my retrieve is going to be. One thing that's important, the front of these frogs, the mouths are red. And I think they kind of designed that so we would know to have that frog. We do not want to see red when we're throwing that frog. So I'm gonna make a cast, and I want you guys to pay attention to the retrieve. So one of the things that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep a lot of slack in my line. I'm also gonna take the butt of the rod and I'm gonna slap it against my forearm. So pay attention to the way I work this frog. So one other retrieve is called walking the dog. Most of you guys are pretty familiar with walking the dog. I'm gonna use this method when a bass blows up and he misses the frog. I'm gonna walk the dog to get it out of there, make another cast past where he was, and do the same cadence, the twitch, twitch, pause, twitch, 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 pause. So I'm gonna show you guys walking the dog. So one thing that's really important is when you're twitching this frog, you want to make sure that you're keeping about 1 foot to 2 foot of slack in your line. You don't want to pull the frog. So basically, you want your rod tip to go down and back up as fast as you can. So it's twitch, 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 twitch. If you'll notice on this segment right here, you'll see all the slack in the tip of my rod. That's allowing that bait to come towards me, but turn all the way around. I'm making sure that I'm twitching the bait and not pulling the bait. The very moment that you feel your line at the tip of your rod is the moment that you should point straight back at it. So you're gonna pull down, as soon as you feel your line, you're gonna actually get all the slack out of your line, you wanna point right back at that bait.
Oh, he was just licking on it though. Don't be licking, cowboy. Yeah, bro. Camera. I bet you a blue store burrito. I'm about to get that.
Let's say you're gonna catch that fish that just bit your frog? That's a bass. That's a pretty good one. Standard issue in here, ain't it?
That's all we're catching today, boy.
Standard issue.
That's all we're catching. You know what that is right there? I don't either. There you go. That's a big one, boy. There you go. Big one, boy.
Good call, brother.
Woo! I got the net that time.
Look at that.
That's half the size of mine, but that's a nice fish. That's a nice, oh wow, that's half the size of mine, but that's a nice fish.
Well, man, that is an absolute ton of knowledge. This guy is the best frog fisherman I know, so we're so glad. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Hey, no problem. I'm glad you guys have been asking me about it. Hey, it's been an unbelievable year. I don't know how many fish over 7 and 8 pounds we've caught on a frog this year. Probably 25 or 30. It's been, and dude, it's not even May yet.
I know.
Like, it's not even time to really hammer on a frog.
And it's been abnormally cold, and it's been abnormally dirty water. You know, there's some things working against us.
Yeah.
And still, it's just Lake Fork.
It's Lake Fork's in great condition. Me and you were talking about this afternoon with our customers. There's things going down here that are magical.
Yeah, right now there is. There really is. It's an unbelievable place. There's just no other place on earth that has the amount of, like you say, 7 to 8 pounders.
Yep.
Cruising around.
It's unbelievable.
Kind of around every corner, it seems like, at times like these.
It does. It does.
You guys, comment below. Let us know what you thought of the video. Let us know what you want to see next technique-wise. We'd like to hear that from you. Also, let us know what did we miss. If you guys have some questions, we'd love an opportunity to answer your questions about frog fishing, as well as know what we need to include the next time we do a frog video, whatever that is.
Absolutely. Hey, you can always message me on Facebook. It's Captain Ron's Guide Service. I'm on the gram, Captain Ron Big Bass.
Go be that Insta fam.
Instagram, be my Insta fam. I'm happy to answer your questions, man. Nothing's a secret out here. It's all about sharing the knowledge and the passion for the sport. And Billy, you do a great job of that, and I appreciate you having me involved. And I appreciate you guys checking it out. You know, frog fishing is just something that where we live, man, we get to do a lot of it, and I know some of you guys don't, and so we're happy to share the knowledge for frog fishing or anything else for that matter.
Absolutely, bud. And you can find both of us. If you're wanting to book a trip, you can find us both at yourlakefortguide.com. You can reach us both at the same place.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool, one-stop shop.
That's it.
For all your Lake Fork Guide needs. That's why we're your Lake Fork Guide. One other thing, if you guys are coming out here to Lake Fork or any of our other East Texas lakes, we have several of the big bodies of water around here included on the Fish Life app. Now what that is an application.
Sorry.
It's an application you can download on your phone. You can get it on the Google Play Store. You can get it in the App Store for iPhone. You can also get it at www.fishlife.net, and you can use that web app on any device. Those are all linked below, of course, but we have waypoints with detailed information of what type of baits to use, what that area is, and these waypoints are always getting updated, so the information is always fresh. They're never more than a month old, so you know you're always getting current updated information on the day that you open and use that app. So please check out the Fish Life app. Oh yeah, 6th Sense Fishing. Pow! Go over to 6thsensefishing.com as well. They're linked below as well. As always, please check them out. If you do decide to buy anything from 6thsensefishing.com, be sure you punch in the code YourLakeFortGuide. You'll get a 10% discount on all orders. Our way of saying thank you to you guys for watching, hanging out with us.
That's right. Hey, 10% is 10%.
10% is 10%. I mean, now I'm not I'm a fishing guide. I don't do math, but I think that's correct.
That's 100% correct. I'm basically a geologist, so math's kind of my deal.
That math doesn't add up. We appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Your Lake Fork Guide.